I was in a stable engineering career. I was making a six-figure salary, and I was on the inside. It was chaos. I was suffering with depression, panic attacks, suicidal ideation. My parents were very high into do well in school, university, get that job, get married, house in the suburbs, 1.5 kids, and a golden retriever, right? I had some version of that, and yet I wanted to end my life. The current way of living my life was killing me, and if I didn't do anything about it, that was what was going to happen. And we were walking down this beautiful beach in Hawaii. We came across this old Volkswagen bus. And in that moment, that realized that the folks that lived in that van, they were the ones out surfing, and they were free to live their lives one wave at a time. And I heard a little voice in my mind. It was like, Rob, I would love to do that. And immediately a stern, judgmental voice was like, Rob, I will never let you do that. Before, my whole life and my whole identity was skewed towards I must achieve, otherwise I'm not something. I'm not good enough, I don't belong. I realized that I had been living my life with chaos and fear this entire time. Our brains are designed to keep us safe and alive. And safe and alive means that we've done something before. It doesn't mean happy, it doesn't mean fulfilled, it doesn't mean successful. The real switch, right? When you look at that part of you that's trying to help you, it's trying to make you perform really well. It's trying to help you achieve things because it's worried that you are going to feel shame if you don't. Getting going is the hardest part. Once you've built those habits, then it becomes easy. Writing down your goals increases your probability to achieve them to 42%. If you share that goal with one person who can hold you accountable, your probability of achieving it goes to 70%. Once you get out of your own way and you take that courageous step to do that thing, that's when things start to pick up momentum, and that's when that snowball starts to happen.
Many men look like they've got things handled until the internal cost catches up with them. For this one, I'm joined by Rob Kalwarowsky, who went from a six-figure engineering career and outward success to depression, panic attacks, and suicidal ideation, all while doing all the right things on paper. We break down what happens when achievement becomes a coping strategy and how imposter syndrome quietly keeps capable men from moving forward. We also touch upon practical insights around accountability, awareness, and taking action. This conversation is about the moment you realize your identity might not be built on truth and what it actually takes to step out of survival mode and start living with alignment instead. If you found value in this one, support the mission. Please kindly subscribe and leave a review. It helps the show grow, and that means that we can reach more men who are navigating that messy middle of growth and support them in becoming more self-led. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage Podcast. Enjoy. Fantastic. We are live. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Harrison. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you on. And to get straight stuck into it, I'd like to ask you, because a lot of men are high functioning, but not necessarily self-led. They're driven, but not grounded. So I want to know, what was the moment you realized you were one of them?
Yes. So in January 2020, my girlfriend and I traveled to Hawaii for her best friend's wedding. And at the time, everything in my life looked great. I was in a stable engineering career. I was making a six-figure salary, and I was in a long-term relationship with the woman who would become my wife. And on the inside, it was chaos. I was suffering with depression, panic attacks, suicidal ideation. And we were walking down this beautiful beach in Hawaii. Sun's out, waves are going. People were out surfing, and we came across this old Volkswagen bus. And at the back of the bus, there was a wooden box full of fruit and a cardboard sign that said, "Take a fruit, leave $1." And and in that moment, there was a part of me that was like, that realized that the folks that lived in that van, they were the ones out surfing, and they were free to live their lives one wave at a time. And I heard a little voice in my mind. It was like, Rob, I would love to do that. And immediately a stern, judgmental voice was like, Rob, I will never let you do that. And in that moment, I realized that I had been living my life with chaos and fear this entire time. And that was the choice when I decided to embark on my journey and really choose to show up in the way that I wanted to.
Wow. So, I mean, just listening to that, from the impression I got, it was that you perhaps hadn't had this perspective before. Maybe you'd had this one way of doing things, and that is perhaps all you thought life was. And then once you were given this new perspective that suddenly looked so refreshing and wonderful, you had the awareness of this other voice coming in. Was that for you? Was that suddenly a differentiation? Did you have the awareness of that awareness at the time to go, hey, you know what? That voice isn't me. I don't know who that is, but that's fear. That's not aligned. And talk to me about that process of getting to know that voice and the journey that unfolded from there.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't like for context for folks, like I had grown up in Canada. I was on the junior national water polo team. I went to MIT, graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. I got a job in mining. Like I was doing the quote unquote right thing. Like my parents were very high into do well in school, get into a great school, like university, get that job, get married, house in the suburbs, 1.5 kids and a golden retriever, right? And it's like, I had some version of that, and yet I wanted to end my life. And so I knew consciously like it wasn't working, but I didn't know how to change. That was the moment where I realized that there was a different path that I could choose. And I never really had thought of that. I was just like, yep, life just isn't great. And we just like try to get promoted. And maybe if I get promoted, I'll feel better. It's like, that's often what, like the folks that I work with now, like they're executives, they're founders, they're high performing people. And they're kind of on that same track is like, if I just get that promotion, if I get my business to 10 million or 20 million or 100 million, if I raise this thing, then I'll be happy. And ultimately, like what we've all experienced at some level or another in our life is we get that thing and we're like, shit, man, I don't feel better. And that's really the choice that we all have to make is you can choose to live your life differently. But you have to make the choice. I can't make it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Mm. Yeah, well, I imagine at that time there must have been so much resistance for yourself, right? Just because you had built up this identity in your mind, like you are the high performer, you're the guy who gets stuff done. And I've reflected on this recently in terms of achievement, because I've realized now when I achieve something great for myself, I'll get a nice high and a buzz. But then, after a couple of days or a week after, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of back to normal. So I kind of redefined it. And I was like, I go on to achieve these things because I want to achieve them, not necessarily to make me happy, because I know at this stage it doesn't. So it's more just like, I just want to achieve things. So that's been my mindset shift. But it's exactly as you said, I don't think it matters what your goal necessarily is, but achieving it's not really going to change your internal state. But once you got this awareness, how much resistance was there to making this change? That's what I want to know, because again, I'm similar to yourself, man. The amount of times I've gone like traveling and I'm just like man, well, what if I just became a fisherman and just settled down here or lived on a farm or something? But then there's kind of this other voice, and then you feel like long-term plans and this whole identity you've built. So what resistance was there? Did you have to kind of make trade-offs, or was there perhaps an insight where you were like, you know what, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. Maybe I can create a reality, I imagine, like you've done now, where I can incorporate both worlds.
100%. There was resistance. Absolutely, there's resistance. The thing that I know now, and the thing that I talk to all my clients about, right, is people think like, oh, if I do this work, I'm just gonna be lazy. I'm not gonna want to achieve. I'm gonna sit on the top of the mountain and, float, right? It's not the case. What you mentioned is there's a balance here, right? And it's like, before, my whole life and my whole identity was skewed towards I must achieve, otherwise I'm not something. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I'm a piece of garbage, whatever that is, right? And we're often like, we're taught this through our lives. Like, it's not like like, we don't get born with something wrong with us, like thinking we're bad people. It's like we learned this, like, whatever that looks like, and then we lean into that narrative, and it actually helps us. Like, early in our life, like, I was super driven. I went to one of the best colleges in the world. Like, I played really high level sports. Like, it made me quote unquote successful, until you hit the wall where it's like you get into an environment where you can't achieve that, and then you go, what's wrong with me? And that's the slippery slope, right? And so, like, the real switch, right? And this is the difference between the work that I do with people versus some forms of coaching or some forms of therapy where they look at reframing. Reframing is like basically telling that part of you that wants to achieve that it's wrong. And I think of this like a relationship. Like, if you have a girlfriend or a wife, right? And they're like, hey, honey, put the dishes away or something. And you're like, well, actually, you're being illogical. Like, that doesn't work, right? It's like, you want to listen, you want to understand, you want to empathize, and then you want to allow them to see a different perspective. But it starts with that first curiosity and empathy before. And so, like, when you look at that part of you that's trying to help you, it's trying to make you perform really well. It's trying to help you achieve things because it's worried that you are going to feel shame if you don't. And so you go, hey, I totally get it. I understand. I know you've been helping me for a long time, and we can go about this a little differently. It takes time, but sometimes, like, if you're just like chugging along in your life and you want to change, you want to grow, like, sometimes I get movement with my clients in one session, right? And it's not like, of course you want to do it over time, but it's like some folks feel vastly better in like a few weeks, and then they change how they're going about their life. And it's not that like, they quit their job and move to the beach, but it's like it changes their relationship to how they perform, which actually makes them perform better.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because in my mind, I think there is that kind of mindset shift in your mind, right? Okay, I know this path is probably better for me long term, but then there still kind of needs to be a bridge to that, because and I think you alluded to it, but yeah, if you've been conditioned so long to see things a certain way, and there's a lot of perhaps fear of failure driving your behavior or whatever it may be, there is going to be that resistance, right? So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me, for sure. I think what also interests me as well is this whole kind of not only letting go of who you thought you had to be, but then also coming up with a new vision, a new way of doing things, and the kind of integration process there. So I wonder if, in your case, was it necessarily a straight line, or did you kind of get the insight, but then it's like kind of going back into the old way of doing things? Like, talk to me about that period, because I know for myself. I still know. I mean, I've come I'd say a significant way myself in terms of like that was my driver, and I think it does get us a certain distance. It does work, I think, early on in our journey, and then there comes a point where things need looking at. I know for myself, it was really difficult. I got the insight. I knew this was the way I should be operating, but I was still, returning to the old way of being. So talk to me about that process.
It's never a straight line. That's not how growth works, right? Um, I mean, we all wish it was, right? But that's just not the way it is, right? It's often how I describe this is, I use, I call it the fire method. The first step, find your reason, is really like, why are you going on this change journey or this growth journey? And often, like I spoke to a founder yesterday, and he's really struggling, and he wants to basically sell his equity and change careers. It's part of like the dynamic with his co-founders has shifted, and like the industry shifted, and so there's stuff going on, right? And it's like we were chatting, and he was upset that he hadn't moved sooner, and he hadn't taken action to leave to like find another job or start another business or whatever, right? And it's like our brains are designed to keep us safe and alive. And safe and alive means basically that we've done something before. It doesn't mean happy, it doesn't mean fulfilled, it doesn't mean successful. So, safe, this is why we are programmed literally to stay in status quo. Because if we drive the same route as we did yesterday, well, we survived yesterday, so we can survive today. If we sit in the same chair as we did yesterday, we survived yesterday, we'll survive today, right? That's why like habits and building habits is like one of the most important things you can do to achieve your goals, because the right habit, you will continue doing it. And if you continue taking the right steps, you'll get somewhere. You get where you want to go. Also, that's the reason why if you're doing the wrong habits, you're going to stay stuck doing the wrong things. Now, to overcome that status quo, what I work with folks is basically you need to overcome your brain's fear of change. And the way you do that is you basically show your brain, what is the pain and suffering that I experience today by staying in status quo? And then you balance it with, what could future state look like and how will I feel when I get there? And that, the more you can stack on either side of that equation, the more you're leveraged to go, actually, change is the safest thing that I can do.
Can there be a challenge perhaps if, for example, you're doing this exercise and the future is kind of unknown, what the trade-off actually is? So this might not necessarily be working, but that next vision isn't actually very clear, or you think, oh, it might sound nice, but will it actually match my expectations? I mean, you hear about like the grass isn't always greener mentality. I mean, how many times have you heard that before, where someone's left a relationship or a job thinking that it'd be better? Maybe that's just the trade-off. It's actually, hey, it is unknown, it is a fear, but would you rather not know or take the chance of not knowing? I don't know, but I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
The future is never known, right? Like when I started this work, right? It wasn't that I knew I was going to be an executive coach. I actually didn't even know executive coaching was really a career. It wasn't that I knew that, I was going to move to Costa Rica. Like that wasn't a thing. It was like, oh, I'd love to move somewhere that doesn't have snow, but it wasn't on my radar. I had never been here before, like none of these things, right? But what I knew was the current way of living my life was killing me. And if I didn't do anything about it, that was what was going to happen.
Well, I suppose in your case, there was like suicidal ideation, right? So that's pretty serious stuff. So I think, is there a challenge, and perhaps you even had this with yourself a bit later on, where perhaps it's not so obvious what the negatives are, or it's not so clear that something is off. I've been always fascinated by this kind of, is this discomfort, is this growth, or is this just complete misalignment that will end up in a not so desirable place?
So discomfort and growth, like absolutely not, I'm not saying everybody, obviously everyone is going to be depressed, right? Um, you have to look at the context, right? Like discomfort and growth is like, I'm working to achieve whatever. I'm trying to scale my business. And so like I got to work hard to do that. There's discomfort in that. I have to, I have to ask for clients. I have to call people. I have to do things that I'll get rejected. Like those things, they're uncomfortable. It's like going to the gym. Like going to the gym's not comfortable. Like doing a hard workout's not comfortable, but you're doing it for a purpose. When you start to feel things like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. I want to avoid doing what I feel like I should do. I feel frustrated all the time. I feel angry all the time. I feel sad all the time. Those are when you're seeing misalignment. Another way to look into this is like, often you can do this in your current state. You can also look at this as you go through the growth journey, is like, what are your core values? That's a great way to look at like, okay, is the way I'm living my life aligned with my 5 to 10 values, or even I like to take it down to really 2 values. So then decisions get really obvious. Another way to look at it is like, what are my specific strengths? And so with all my clients, as we go through this journey, I do the reflected best self exercise, which is ask 5 to 10 people that know you really well, both in a professional context and some people in a personal context. Tell me a story about when you saw me at my best. Then when you get those 5 to 10 stories, then it's like, okay, what are the traits that I'm showing when I'm at my best? What am I doing? What are the commonalities? That how can I use that in a professional context, or what would a role look like where I use those? And that can be like tweaking your job. Like if you've noticed like you're really a people person and you're a great leader, like, okay, even if you're an individual contributor job, it's like, how can I get around more people? How can I lead projects? How can I switch what I do just a touch? Like you don't even have to leave your job. It's like, what adjustments can I make? Or the inverse is true. If I'm a people leader, but I really love doing deep technical work, how can I block a couple hours a week to dig into that stuff? Right? And then once you do that, that'll make you happier. And then you can look more further term, like, do I need to switch careers, or do I want to start my own business, or like those stuff that can happen later.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because again, there could be some instances where you just need a drastic change, and you need to, right, this isn't working. We need to, come up with a new identity and follow that. But then other times, like you've alluded to, it might just be 1 or 2 little shifts that could completely transform our situation. So, I'm keen to hear more about the sort of this process of discovery. Of course, you mentioned the values there. And I love this idea of like, right, when have you seen me at my best? And I think sometimes we might not even be aware of that ourselves. A lot of the time, I think we can get quite disconnected. I imagine there's other ways in which guys can go about this as well. Has a big part of your journey being getting in tune with your body as well, right? Because I think a lot of the time, what we think is right, or the way we've got about doing things, is very much linked with our sort of reactions to stuff. So how our nervous system is reacting. Did you find that perhaps a big part of the process is getting in tune with that and kind of listening to what the body's telling you. I mean, I certainly know recently actually where I finally got rid of all my vices. So it was like smoking, then I went to nicotine gum, then I went to chewing gum, and then off the chewing gum. And as soon as I went off the chewing gum, all these sort of emotions came up, and I was like, wow, how much of my awareness, like how happy actually am I? Like what have I been kind of like hiding underneath the surface, man? It's wild. So I wonder if that's plays a big role in sort of the man's journey as well.
100%. Often when we're coping with hard feelings, when we feel bad feelings, like we cope with them. We eat too much, we drink too much, we take drugs, we buy stuff online, um, like anything from like eating a whole pizza to uh, like any type of addiction, right? And and when we start our growth journey, we're trying to get in tune with what are those parts of us trying to keep us away from. And if we listen to them, then often we can change that relationship and we no longer need to do that. And so I had a client recently who's, well, actually I work with him now, but over the last couple of months, he's completely quit smoking cannabis. And like he's in Canada, so it's legal, right? But it's like before he was doing because he wasn't able to sleep because like his business has some like legal things going on and scaling things, and like he was using it to help him sleep. And then over the last couple months, like he was like, I don't need that anymore because I feel better internally. And so like he just hasn't been using. And so it's like when I remove the need for that coping, then I no longer need to engage in the behavior.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is massive what we're talking about, and I love the way you put that because I've always seen it quite clearly, right? When you talk about not even just addiction, procrastination as well, all of this stuff, it's like it is a protective mechanism, and I think when you reframe it that way, you're like, right, what is this telling me? And you allow yourself time to, yeah, just be with it and sit with it and explore it. I think we can get so many answers. So I almost like to think of it as kind of do the opposite of what society does, really. Like everyone's so quick to do stuff and engage in activities and what have you. I think if you just do the opposite and slow down as much as possible, if you've got the luxury of doing so, yeah, I think that will put you in good stead. Is there quite a lot of resistance to, like you said, stopping? I don't know what your vices might have been at the time. What were the ways that you were coping, and when you kind of gain the knowledge of like actually exploring this stuff could help me out, did that propel you, or do you still find that not only in your own journey but then in other men as well, there's still a bit of resistance there? And how do people overcome that resistance to stopping? You know, it might be scrolling, for example, it might be drinking, it might be smoking weed, whatever it may be. What's the approach there that they've used and perhaps you've used as well?
Yeah. So in 2012, 2013 was really when I was depressed and like really struggling. And I was coping with any way I knew how. I was exercising 4 to 5 hours a day. I was drinking a lot. Um, like that was how I was trying to cope with feeling suicidal. And like ultimately, like what needed to change was the relationship between myself and myself, really. Right? And that's not in like for folks like obviously if you have mental health concerns like this, you need a mental health professional, you need a therapist, you need a psychiatrist, you need a support system, right? Like if you're just, scrolling on TikTok because you don't like your job, like these things are things where it's like you don't need a professional to help you, like a mental health professional, you probably just need like I could help you, or Harrison can help you. Like, you need somebody who can get you accountable to start moving in the direction you want to do. Because any type of, like, you truly know inside what you should be doing, and the one hard thing that you should do that you've been avoiding. And it's like, once you get out of your own way and you take that courageous step to do that thing, that's when things start to pick up momentum. And that's when that snowball starts to happen. And so, like, it really helps having either a really close friend that that can hold you accountable, a coach that can hold you accountable, like someone who can help you to get going. Because honestly, like, getting going is the hardest part. Once you've built those habits, then it becomes easy. Like, then you just become like, hey, I'm the guy who calls 10 people a day and tries to sell them something in my business. Or I'm the guy who asks my boss for the raise. I'm the guy who asks for that, who applies for that dream job, who gets in that room for networking, who asks that girl on a date. Like, whatever that is for you, it just becomes who you are. And so then it's like, it's not just this like, oh, I got to really wrench myself from out of like status quo to do it. It's just like, it becomes the things you do. And that's when the results start to happen, right? Like I'll give you an example. Like in I started working with a guy in September, and he's like this mobile AI developer. And at the time he was working in this company, and like he had a lot of resistance around um, trying to get another job, trying to get what he wanted. There was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of like that I can't do stuff. Like, we started working together. Within like 6 sessions, he was applying for another job. He started working at one of the leading at Poly Market in January, and now he's rolling full steam. Like, it like really didn't take that long. And it was just like, he just needed a little support to get out of his own way, and then he's rolling.
Well, this getting out your own way is fascinating to me. And yeah, I'd love to touch upon imposter syndrome as well, because I think it's something which I imagine most people have to some degrees, even if it's a little bit. It's certainly something that I've had to sort of look at for myself. I wanted to touch on a couple points also, because I love that you mentioned exercise there as well. During your period, what I see a lot of the time is like, right, I'm just gonna go for a run and I'll just empty out my cup, as a stress relief. But it's another addiction that, in a way, it's still kind of another what the phrase is. I think it's a plaster over a wound, or it's kind of papering over the cracks in a way. So I think that's a good point as well. Certainly something I can definitely relate to. Especially earlier on in my journey, I was just going to the gym every day, going for a run every day, because that's the only time I could feel good in myself. So that's an interesting one. The accountability as well is massive, because it doesn't matter how. I think this is an illusion as well. I certainly had an idea in my mind, oh, right, I'm accountable for myself. I don't need any of that. And I think that actually stopped me. That was hindering. I was self-sabotaging, really. I was, from stopping someone else helping me out, because then, as you're alluding to, the illusion kind of breaks in a way, and then you're like, oh, okay, I kind of do need it. I was saying to a mentor of mine, I was like, yeah, you know what, I wish I had like me, but as a coach. Sometimes he's like, yeah, if you know any builders, they'll probably do a great job on someone else's place, but guarantee their place is an absolute mess. And I could really resonate with that. So I think it's super important. And another illusion you can break is thinking that you don't need support. Actually, I think we can all really, really benefit from that type of stuff. So yeah, I love that you've mentioned.
And Harrison, here's the data on this. Like, if you send me like an email, rob@robkalwarowsky.com, or you hit me up on LinkedIn, Rob Kalwarowsky, I will send you this worksheet for free, because it takes literally 10 minutes, but it will dramatically improve everything. Writing down your goals increases your probability to achieve them to 42%. Now we're talking about accountability. If you share that goal with one person who can hold you accountable, your probability of achieving it goes to 70%. This is data. This is science. Like that exercise of sitting there, writing down your goal, and then sharing it with one person makes it 70% that you're going to achieve it. You haven't even really done anything. But think about that. Like that is a massive improvement. So it's like it could literally be one of the best things you do in 10 minutes.
Well, I think even just the process of, again, just writing it down and just getting it onto a piece of paper. Yeah, I think the one which I kind of heard was, go into a book, write down every single goal you possibly have, and then close it, and then just, it's just there. And I quite like that approach, but it's true. I mean, I have heard conflicting stuff about, I'd love to hear your opinion on this before we do dive into the other stuff, but I've also heard people talk about how, you've got to be careful sharing your goals with the wrong people, perhaps, or sharing it too early. And sometimes speaking about doing something, it might trigger a reward system in your brain. So it might trick you to think that you've already accomplished it. Interested to hear what your opinion is on that. Again, it could just be one of this, but they say this and he says that. Whereas, it's just to and fro, I suppose.
So on the growth journey, always what happens is you will take a step up and then you'll realize that your relationships need to change. There will be people that you will have to either cut out of your life or alter your relationship with, and then there will be new people that will come in that will support you. That's just how it works. And so what you're mentioning about you have to be careful with who you share it to is a real thing. If you share it with people who are stuck in their own stuff, there is sometimes it can happen where they will denigrate you for having a big goal. They'll try to hold you back. They'll feel like it's them. It's not you, it's them. It's their stuff. That's like, I can't let Harrison get a $10 million business because it means something about me. But if you share it to somebody who's supporting you, who's on your team, that's when you get that accountability, right? And like, that's why finding that right, like community or that right person or that mentor or coach or whatever is super important, because they're the ones that can help you, hold you accountable, can check in with you. Hey, Harrison, did you get that thing done today? You said you were going to do. Are you going to, like, who can I help introduce you to? How does that work? Like, that's where it's, again, like your network's going to compound your results too. So that's where that community is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Surrounding yourself with like-minded men, I think it's absolute gold. And I think a lot of the time, we can go through this like lone wolf mentality, right? Where we think, right, it's just us because we've broken away from the nest, and and I think that is a part of the journey. I think that's part of the kind of character arc. But I think eventually it's, okay, you've done the lone wolf now. You've built up a bit of resilience. You've built up a bit of discipline. All right, you proved it. Now let's kind of open up again to the world. So I absolutely agree. I'd love to touch upon imposter syndrome. We mentioned that previously. And also this other question that I had, which is kind of linked with it, which is about sort of mental health, but then also just doing the thing as well. So, you mentioned there might be certain things you might seek psychotherapy or a psychiatrist or therapy, whatever it may be. But then other times, especially when it comes to imposter syndrome, maybe the way you get over that is just by doing the thing. So I'd love to explore that line there. At what point can we get sucked into like blaming our trauma versus actually, well, look, just do it. Just, as Nike says. I'd love to hear your stance on that.
So the research says that imposter syndrome, like 70% of adults experience imposter syndrome. I actually think it's higher than that. It's probably everybody. Depends what context and what room you're in, but doesn't really matter. It means a lot, right? It's probably, I would say, it's probably the second most common thing I encounter in my work. The biggest thing that I see is two things happen with imposter syndrome. One is I overcompensate and I become this like ego maniac. So like I have to tell everyone how wonderful I am. I'm really showing that I'm so smart and so wonderful and great and all this stuff. The other thing I think I see, which is way more devious, is where it handcuffs people and they don't do the things. And so I was working with a client. It started in January of 2022, and he had just gotten his dream job with a world-renowned design company, and they hired him. He was like this longtime tech executive, super, super incredible guy, great leader, and they hired him to help them do a digital transformation on themselves and then roll that out to clients. And he like, this should be the greatest thing ever, right? Like, he just got his dream job. He should be rolling full steam. Like, everything's great. Like, he has all the skills and knowledge and expertise to do it. But he started going to these executive meetings and these board meetings, and he kept saying things to me like, they have better education than I do. They have better careers than I do. They went to more prestigious universities, blah, 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 blah. And like, he didn't even take the leadership of doing this digital transformation until we really worked through that. And then once he realized, oh yeah, I am the expert. Oh yeah, I am a great leader at this. I've done it before. I can do it again. Then it was like this light switch moment where he took control, guided it through, then went on to just like becoming the youngest partner in the firm's history, got promoted, all the great stuff. What you mentioned, Harrison, about we just got to do it. My strategy for this is like, when you feel that fear or that resistance, just take that deep breath and let a big sigh out. That's going to help relax your nervous system a little bit. And just say to yourself, I'm human. And just acknowledge that like literally 70% of people experience imposter syndrome. You ain't the only one. And then take action. Because when you experience that, right, one is like, when I mentioned like you either become this egomaniac, that's a fight response. Or if I'm doing nothing, that's a freeze response. And so just by taking that deep breath in and going, I'm human, you let that fight-flight response come down, and then you can take that one step. And by taking that one step, then it's just reinforcing it back to your mind that like, I didn't die, it's all good.
Well, yeah, I mean, it ties back to what we were saying before, get in tune with your body and actually paying attention to, okay, what's my nervous system doing? Am I getting stressed? I don't know about blood pressure, I don't measure it myself, but, heart rate, whatever it may be. And then I think when we are in our center and we are calm, I think we can kind of move through things and, just take that one small step. Yeah, it's so important. And I imagine there can be quite a few layers to this as well in terms of like self-esteem, self-worth. And I think it's, again, normalizing the process, what you mentioned there. I can imagine that's very helpful as well. Just like, yeah, this is part of the human experience. And I guess we are kind of wired, as you were alluding to before, to seek our survival in a way, look out for danger. So yeah, I think that all resonates with me. Before we kind of go into the closing traditions, I'd love to hear from your side. Just how are things now for you? How would you kind of look back on your journey in terms of continuing to go on to look to achieve stuff, expand your own business, but then also kind of staying grounded in the process as well, bringing yourself back to balance. Because I've got a theory that we never really stay truly balanced. We're kind of just always slightly too much in one direction or the other. So I'd love to hear, especially coming from someone like yourself who on the surface has it all together. Like, are there any sort of challenges you're working through currently, or is there? Yeah, talk to me about that journey since coming to these realizations, but then continuing to integrate it as well.
100%, right? The journey doesn't end, it evolves just like you, right? And so like I had to evolve who I thought I was. I continually evolve who I think I am. Um, I mean, most recently for me, like I got off medication and I really had to integrate this realization that I've healed my mental health. I mean, it doesn't mean forever, it just means in this current moment because I had been on medication and in treatment like really strongly for, about 6 years, right? And so it's like I didn't realize the impact that it had on me, um, that I had really taken on this thought process of like, I'm just gonna have to keep doing this forever. Um, now in terms of like how does this journey continue, right? It's like what you mentioned is true, right? I think the way my I've come to realize it, right, is like we go through seasons, right? And so there are seasons where you're going to focus on your business or your professional life. There are seasons where, you know, you're going to need to recover or take time off or like go on vacation or have fun, right? And it's like it's this like thought process of like work life balance and 40 hours a week. It's like that's not it doesn't really work like that anymore, right? Like there'll be times you want to work more. There'll be times you want to work less. And it's like it's again, it's like staying in tune with how you're feeling and like how that stuff's going, right? Like I work with entrepreneurs who are working, 60 to 80 hours a week, right? It's normal. That's how you build a business. But then they can't do that 52 weeks a year, right? Because that's when you run into burnout or even just low performance. Um, and so it's like it's just tracking yourself, how you're feeling, what is your energy, what's your motivation like, and it's making sure that you kind of you're adaptive to those things. Because I think about this as an athlete, right? It's like no athletes are 100% all year round, right? Like they're training hard. Often they're training really hard to perform in like one game over a year, right? Or like one event. Like I talked to a javelin Olympian and like she was training 4 years so she could throw the javelin at her best 3 times. Like all in all, that's like maybe 30 seconds. Right? So it's like you got to recover, you got to work out, you got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to, do all the recovery. Like all of that is leading up to maybe 30 seconds of peak performance. And so like business, of course, it's a little different than that, but there's no way that you're at your peak, 60 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. Like that's just not how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. Just these different seasons, right? And I think that's really helped me as a reminder when I am going through maybe a tougher season and maybe I'm not getting as much done as I would like or what have you. I'm kind of taking that as okay. I need to kind of go deeper within myself here. I need to slow down, especially like the winter months as well. When it's a bit slower. It's like right, let's hibernate. It doesn't have to be right 1st of January. Now we go all guns blazing. For me it was like right. That's the spring where I'm ready to kind of show my show my face again. So yeah, I like that point, and I think it's just a good reminder as well. Life. It's funny, isn't it? You kind of know that this is how life works. You're going to have different seasons, and yet sometimes you kind of forget which season that you're in. You're like, oh, hang on, it should be here. But it's like, no, come on, you know full well what this journey's like. So yeah, wicked point, Rob. And it's been great learning about your story, but then also hearing about sort of the wisdom you've acquired as well throughout your journey. So it's been awesome. We'll hop into the closing traditions of the podcast. The first 2 are nice and simple. They're asked every week, and then the third one is asked by a member of the Growth Voyage community. The first one, very simple. It's a song recommendation.
Um, Good question. One of the songs I actually was listening to this morning is The Kill by 30 Seconds to Mars, I think. What's that band with Jared Leto? I forget.
I'm not the person to ask, but
Yeah, anyways,
you check it.
The Kill. You'll find it on YouTube.
Okay. Wicked. Yeah, we'll pop it in the description once we find it. Second one, it's a book recommendation.
Yeah. So great book that I recommend to pretty much all my clients. Seven Rules of Power by Jeffrey Pfeffer. Also, shameless plug of my own book, Capitalizing on Chaos. You can get that on Amazon too. Of course, I would say it's a great book, but yeah, read that one too.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the description. Yeah, no, I feel like writing a book is one of those like real kind of achievements, isn't it? Just kind of like a lifetime thing. So yeah, we'll definitely put that in. And then yeah, the first one again, it was the seven.
Seven Rules of Power.
Interesting. Is it because I've read 48 Laws of Power, but I don't know if it's a similar energy or kind of a different. Maybe it's totally different.
Yeah, so Robert Greene's book, The 48 Laws of Power, it's a good book. It's a hard read because it's a lot of historical stuff. Jeffrey Pfeffer is a professor at Stanford, and he actually teaches a course on power and influence. The reason I recommend this book is power and influence is really the way that you can achieve any type of goal that you want. And so it's very helpful for executives, especially like some of my clients who are in larger companies. They're dealing with, corporate politics. Whether you're an individual contributor or you're an executive or you're the CEO, like you have people who are trying to back channel, you have people who are trying to get ahead. If you're trying to get promoted, like power and influence is super important. Other things, like if you're an entrepreneur, the same things apply in a different context. Like it'll help you raise money, it'll help you get clients, it'll help you be, expand your network, all these things. Like and the seven rules of power, it's a very roadmappy type of thing that you can follow the system in order to build power and influence, which will help you achieve the goal that you want to apply it to. So I think Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power, is more Machiavellian. It's more dark energy. This one is like, it's just like, this is the way power and influence is built. Hopefully you'll use it for good, but this is how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sounds fascinating. We'll definitely put that in the description. I like to believe as well, as you were saying, I think there's a lot of game playing in the corporate world and a lot of this stuff, right? So I think if you can find a method that works for you, that can build upon your skills without jeopardizing your values or changing who you are, I think that can be very, very empowering for sure.
Like I work with folks that are trying to get promoted in a corporate environment, and I'd never recommend they backstab or take credit for work they don't do. And they can still use these tools to get promoted. So like one of the things I had to learn, I learned early in my career, but also I teach folks, right, is like part of hard work is not the way to get promoted. It's part of it, but you also have to strategically build your brand. You have to talk about the work that you've done. You have to show people that you're adding value. You have to add value that's in alignment to what your managers and the executives want. Like there's so many small adjustments that are strategic that you can make where then people will be like, oh, Harrison's doing a great job. Let's promote him. Versus like a lot of things that we think about, like some people are like, just let the work speak for itself. It doesn't speak for itself.
Yeah. Wicked. Yeah. I'd certainly look forward to reading that. I think that's an excellent suggestion, and definitely your own book as well. They are in the description. The final question, it comes in from one of the Growth Voyage listeners, and this one comes in from Matthew, and he asks, how can I tell the difference between self-sabotage and misalignment?
So when you feel that feeling popping up of I don't want to do something or I'm not feeling, is just tune in and curiously ask yourself, what do I need to know? And if there's a part of you that's saying like, I don't want to do this, and you dig in deeper and it goes like, I'm worried that you're going to fail, or I'm worried that you're going to look bad, or I'm worried that people aren't going to like you, then that's self-sabotage, because it's a part of you that's trying to keep you safe by not doing the thing. If it's misalignment, you'll just hear like, basically like, I don't like this, or I don't want to be a part of this. And so it's really like tuning into that inner conversation. Matthew, if you want, like reach out to Harrison, and like I'll send you a 4-minute track that you can use that'll help you with that exercise. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. Did you say a track?
It's like a 4-minute like mini meditation exercise.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, the power of meditation. It's game changer, I think. So yeah,
it's just like a way to tune in into that conversation. That's how I've made it. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there you go. Offers there. Matthew, thanks for the question. And Rob, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or find out more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, best place, robkalwarowsky.com. That's my website. And again, if you want that free tool to get you rolling, just send me an email, rob@robkalwarowsky.com. It'll be hard to spell, so Harrison, I'll put it in the podcast notes. And then LinkedIn is the only social media I use, so you can find me there.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll put all of these in the description. Is the surname, is it Polish origin, is it?
Ukrainian, yeah.
Ukrainian, gotcha. Okay, wicked. I used to be a Sadowski myself, so not too far away. Rob, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you for having me. Everyone, thank you so much for listening.